The opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Return the Jewels. Also, there's explicit language. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 22 of Return the Jewels. We appreciate all your support, but we can still grow, so please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and tell all your friends. But I guess that's sharing. Anyways, episode 22, we had a really good one. My friend Lily Chun is on. You know, she's trained as a journalist, part of DSA as well, which is the Democratic Socialists of America. We had a really good conversation. It got really heady at times, and it got kind of light as well. We talked about building confidence. We talked about the model minority myth, being first generation, otherization, especially when growing up. In childhood, different boogeymen we create through our rhetorical devices and how people traffic in those kind of things. We had a tokenizer fetishized bit, which is pretty great. She got into it. Um, you know, and then I guess in general, we talked about the New York pandemic state of mind, and it's pretty great. Don't really know what else to say in this intro. You can you'll see everything in the interview itself. So enjoy. You don't have belief in yourself, and that's the lack of confidence unless you take an action to make yourself follow through on something.
It's
What
basically just keeping your promises to yourself. That's what builds confidence. Because if you constantly make promises to yourself and you never follow through, you're not why would you believe you can do anything else? You haven't proven to yourself that you're going to keep your promises to yourself. You
what is
know?
a what would a promise to yourself look like or be like? Like what do you
Like
I mean, I
moving
tell myself things all the time. I lie to myself all the time, but I'm
Mhm.
aware that I lie to myself all the time.
I mean just like moving to New York. It's something that I really wanted to do for myself, and if you consider yourself to be like, say you're outside of yourself and this is like, oh, like your best friend is yourself or whatever. Or, if you want to really go into weird therapy systems, like family therapy systems, like, there's mom Lily and there's like daughter Lily or whatever. There's kid Lily. And then the kid Lily's like, I want to go to New York. And the mom Lily's like, no, you should stay in Houston. It's safer here or whatever. That's confusing. I'm getting drunk. But like, the whole point is like you have things you want and it's necessary to yourself to provide those things for yourself, because if you don't, no one else is going to do it, and it's a way, like, you keep that promise to yourself, you know like it's like you
Yeah.
tell your mom, I want this, and your mom's like, okay, we'll go do it or something.
Yeah, just go do it. Go make it happen for yourself if you want it. Um, so we were having a good long conversation. Usually I do that before the episodes and prep, but I did happen to press record while we were having that part of the thing, which you notice how my like little performative wait, so and then my sum up, and that was actually the start of the recording.
Oh.
So the recording has started,
Okay.
and but that just I did get the very I think the tail end of the good point that you're making about confidence and self-determinism. And but now we have started, and I want to say today our episode, I have a very special guest, my friend of I think a couple of years, 3 4 years now, my friend Lily Chun. We have I guess a gaggle of mutual friends and all of that. And so yeah, I asked Lily to be on. We have some like very cool, interesting things to talk about. And I mean, I don't know if you've she's not used to doing appearances on things like this, so we're gonna
Yeah.
there.
uh
Hmm?
would you actually be mad if I went and made myself another martini real quick?
I would love if you did that.
Okay.
I'm gonna pause the recording so it doesn't even
Okay.
affect the editing.
That sounds good. I'll be right back.
All right, cool. Wait, what? What's the definition of a martini?
It has like vermouth in it and usually some like orange bitters, but nowadays people make or request their martinis to just be like straight spirit, like gin or vodka. And that's not really a martini. It's just like a spirit ordered up meaning like in a coupe. But that's fine. Whatever. I guess.
I understood most of those words.
Okay, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm just telling you, I'm not really drinking a martini here. It's just like,
Can you tell us why or how you know all this specific jargon?
I guess, I bartended or whatever for a little bit. So,
Okay,
yeah.
so we had just started the interview. Lily took a second to make a martini. Well, I took that second to gorge my face in a leftover calzone. Excuse me. Oh, that felt so good. Okay, so so Lily, a friend, raised the reason I had her on here today, excuse me, is I wanted to, this is kind of like a less formal conversation. We're familiar with each other because we have such close mutual friends, and we have, I wouldn't say a lot of similar experiences growing up, but we do have a common element, and that's growing up as a person of color in a very white environment, and like kind of like a especially in secondary education, the the culture around that, and then just like the intangible forces that influence your behavior, and then years later coming out of those kind of environments, in our cases, yours and mine specifically, we're both in New York. uh, Coming out of those environments, you start to look back retroactively and then think about the different influences you may have had that may not have been motivated from the right intentions. Right? No?
What are you?
That too
Oh,
abstract? That's way too abstract. Okay.
no, 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 no. I mean, kind of, but like, I mean, I don't know if I consider my high school and my college experiences to be like that, like white.
Yeah.
I mean, but kind of, like, yeah, kind of. Like having to find your identity in a world that, really places like a premium on like white identity is definitely weird because when you kind of are taught that like a certain thing is like a default and that you are not the default, it definitely makes you pause for a second because you're like, oh, am I the
Yeah.
other then? There's this whole like, there's this whole thing about
Then you
like
just
minorities become like the other, and you know by not having our experiences like front and center, like having them pushed to the side all the time, we're like constantly like not feeling, we're feeling like our stories aren't important, or that we don't matter as much, and that kind of fucks you up a little bit whether you think it does or not.
yeah, I would agree. I think the first step in finding out or becoming aware that you are the other in spaces like that
Mhm.
is spending a lot of years trying to be a good one of the others.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, of course, yeah, being the model minority, but like
Okay,
honestly,
wait, pause.
okay.
Can you tell us what is a model minority? What is the model minority myth? Because I know that a lot of people see that term, and actually, okay, is this fucked up that I have? Okay, I have it mentioned any of your qualifications or anything up top on this interview, and because it and because I want to get out of that mindset of like, oh my god, I have to qualify everyone we talked to and all this stuff. But whatever. Um, Lily was the editor in chief at her high school and college paper. She's got a very staunch journal, like academic integral, whatever. She probably knows a better word for that, journalistic background. And so, diving into and delving in these social issues, I don't need to qualify you to have this conversation we're going to have, because it's kind of fucked up having that inclination to have to do that. But I wanted to put that out before I have you talk about what model minority means, or what the model minority myth means.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the model minority myth is basically just like uh it's just like this myth that certain minorities should be like perfect, like Asian people, for example. It's like and it's used against it's like kind of like a thing that works against like other minorities. Like
Yeah.
people say like, oh, why aren't other minorities like this? Like, why can't black people do this? Because Asian people, like, they're really like successful and, whatever, good at math or whatever. It's still entrenched in racism because, like, first of all, Asian people aren't a monolith. We're not like one way. We're not all, I mean, it feels so like basic to say this now, but we're not all like good at math or successful or whatever. We're like
But the thing
a
is, it's
whole
not
bunch of
basic.
people.
It's not basic to say that. Okay, we're recording on January 10th, 2021 currently, right?
Yeah.
It's not basic to say that, because we got people that literally tried to and almost succeeded in assassinating members of Congress because they believe that they are lizard people. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's wild or to be assumed basic to say that. It's like, yo, to say that there's nuances in Asian cultures is probably mind blowing, because I feel like a lot of Americans would be like, oh wait, Asians aren't aliens.
Yeah, which is kind of stupid, but like, it hurts minorities and it hurts Asian people. Like that whole idea that you know, like I don't know, like whatever, these tokens of like, becoming successful or whatever, that's not something that is just like ingrained in Asian culture. Those are there are specific and individual reasons why people become successful or whatever, but
Mhm.
using that as a way to justify like violence and racism against like other minorities, that's what's really fucked up because yeah, that's a lot of the time what people say in order to like justify being racist to them. And it also dehumanizes Asian people, like,
Yeah.
like I'm not a fucking machine, I make mistakes, I'm not perfect, like just fucking treat me like a human. I'm definitely getting a little drunk. This is my
No, no,
second,
no, that's
and
great.
I made them strong.
Let me give you a real world example, but in a small anecdotal way, where people assume you're kind of the authority on things, and it's kind of like a given just because you fit into the model minority myth, right? Like a lot of times in spaces just like this fucking podcast, if I speak on academic things, people assume I have a certain gravitas. One being a male, two being like brown. I mean Indian, but brown in terms of perception, whatever. And three, having a receding hairline. So I carry, and I don't I try, it's hard to become aware of this, but like I carry this level of authority and influence with the things I say, because there's a preconception of, okay, this guy has done the math, done the homework. He grew up in a library, right? Which is not the case. I grew up in a gas station. So, you know,
Oh man.
uh
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I mean that's the model minority myth, I think, yeah, that's the myth part of it, is the weaponized part of it to dismiss other issues of race, or to uh, kind of gut the nuance that may be involved in racial discourse, you know? And
Yeah.
so when so like the model minority, right, they look at these different I guess different populations, Asians, Indians, they look at like overrepresentation in fields like medicine, and lawyers are like professional fields and all that. But you know, there's also this other, you know, there's other aspects that go into it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like, it's, is it reductive in terms of like media representation, right? The tiger mom trope, the trope
Do
of
I?
the tiger mom. Yeah, your thought on this. Is it reductive, or is that expanding the scope of representation to depict like the Asian parent as an overbearing tiger mom? And not necessarily the mom, even the dad, right?
Yeah.
The disappointed dad or the tiger mom.
Um, I think it's really up to each Asian person to like determine whether or not it's like a myth that was true to them. Because I think, you know, for me personally, I had like tiger parents light, you know, like still tiger parents, but
Hmm.
you know, not the full intense version, because I heard some like crazy stories about, you know, really intense tiger parents. But
Are
I
you,
also think that it's not fair to like say that about all Asian parents. I don't know, just like why?
what are you, okay, are you an only child?
No, I've got a younger sister who likes to act like she's my
Youngest.
older sister.
How much younger? Like how many years?
2 years.
2 years. Okay, so I could see that this is not too much of a margin of error to act like your older sister. I could see
Yeah.
that because you're close and okay. Um, but you're okay. So you are the eldest child, and you set the example for your and your parents were not born in the U.S.,
Right.
right? And so they emigrated from Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay, I'm a complete American idiot. Let's go with this. Okay,
Okay.
so South Korea and North Korea. When we say Korea, we're talking about South Korea. But what does all of this mean? If you can explain to a complete idiot, a complete American idiot, where like your ethnicity, right? So if I'm the annoying preppy white guy that's like, where are you really from? What do you, not what do you answer to that guy? But
Are
what's,
you sure? I would love to answer to that
no,
white
no,
guy.
I want to do that after the authentic answer.
Okay.
Not,
All
well,
right.
no, 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 that's the authentic answer. So I want to do the actual informational answer and then the authentic answer.
So, well, I think first of all, it really depends like on who's asking the question. Like,
Yeah.
if you're my friend and we've like known each other for more than like a day, yeah, I can tell you. Whatever.
More
If
than a day. It just takes a day, guys.
I'm being nice here. I would prefer if we knew each other for a little longer than that before you ask me that, and here's why. Um, I don't really like when people ask me when they immediately meet me what my ethnicity is, because it's like, why do you have to know? Why is that my business? Have you decided something about me like from my ethnicity? It's like, and I'm not just trying to be defensive here. This is like my experience in the past. It's like I'll have like random people like, you know, be like, oh, hey, I'm, you know, I'll tell you a story about that later. But like, yeah, I'll have random people be like, oh, hey, what's your name? Like, where are you from? And I'll be like, I mean, I'm from Houston. They'll be like, no, I mean, like, where are your parents from? And I'm like, um, you know, and then I like sometimes will be vague about it or not answer. But it's just like, why is that information necessary to you? Like, so you can decide you know stuff about me or like stereotype me? I kind of have this policy now that if someone asks me where I'm from and I don't have some kind of working relationship with them where they're either my friend or coworker or whatever, then I just kind of say something else. Like I'll make it up. Like one time I told a guy that my parents died in a car crash. It was really awkward.
That is
He
very.
like left me alone after that.
You know, I've used to have all sorts of wild response to that thing. One thing I like doing now, and it took a while of like living in New York and being able to just like dead eyes contact and stuff. I'm just like, my answer now is why.
Yeah, yeah. And I've actually done that before too, but I've had really weird, because here's the thing, because sometimes, and I've had this happen with men, they'll get very like aggressive to you, being like, I'm just asking, as if they deserve to know
Just asking
everything
questions.
about me.
I just asking. We're just trying to have a
Why are
dialogue.
you being such a bitch? And I'm
Right.
like, man, fuck you. You don't deserve to know anything about me. Like, I had a guy once get mad at me for that, just because I lied to
Wanting
him
to
and told
know
him I
like
worked
what
at
you're.
NASA. His name was Jennifer, but like, he got mad when
Well,
I
you
told
don't
him
look
that.
like a Jennifer.
I know, right?
No,
No,
is that what he said? Oh.
no, he was just like, because I eventually told him, like, I'm just kidding. My name's not Jennifer and I don't work at NASA. And he's like, why would you lie to me? And then I was like, why would you assume you know anything about me just because I told you my name and what you think my job is? Like, you're bothering me. Leave me alone. Like,
why would why would I lie to you? Well, actually, in reality, I'm a psychopath that murders people exactly like you. That's what I do. You just met me at a bar, man.
right? You don't even know me. I don't know. I was just not wanting to talk to him.
That's fair. That's fair. No, I get a lot of people wanting to lead with that kind of thing, with like knowing your ethnicity or whatever, and or knowing my ethnicity, and it's like a lot of times it's more of when I finally get to Indian, they're like, I knew it. We had a
Right.
pool going. Me and Randy had a pool going.
It's like, dude, my ethnicity is not your fucking game. Like, I actually one time at this restaurant that I used to work at, there were these like offensive older people that, like, first of all, they were like beckoning me to like come here like this, which you should never do to a service person. It's
And if
so
you're
rude.
listening right now, Lily just did the index finger curl. So
Oh yeah.
that's the symbol she
I
just.
thought this was like video.
Well, it's both. I'm
Oh,
putting it out on the audio platforms as well because it's a podcast. So we're gonna do other stuff.
okay.
Um,
Gotcha.
I say we, but
Yeah. Yeah. So they were like beckoning me to like come here with the little index finger curl thing. And I was like, like doing the, oh, wait, 1 second, like fake smiling and like my index finger up, like, oh, 1 second. And of course, I never went over there because, well, my coworker also told me beforehand that the table wanted to know what my ethnicity was. And then after that, they were like gesturing to me. And I was like, I'm not going to tell them.
wow.
Yeah, so I ignored them because it's like, it's really
Okay, wait,
not
wait, wait. Describe the table. Old
old. I don't
family.
remember anything else about them. I think they were like old white people.
Well, yeah. I mean, I could tell you that.
Yeah, that's all I
No,
remember. I
but
don't
so you went into like a rage.
I'm not really a rage. When you work in the service industry, that kind of thing happens so much. You're literally like, I had one guy one time tell me I should go back to where I came from. And he was very gentle and almost sweet about it. And I was like, what the fuck? I think racism just happened to me.
Oh, you couldn't even tell, even though it's like so blatant.
It was that kind of thing. Well, this happened in Texas too, where he was very like,
Yeah, I was about to ask, was this in the South? Yeah.
yeah, and it was like the kind of thing where I walked away, and that's part of the thing people don't realize is like, there's so many different kinds of way racism appears. Like, first of all, there's like the big fat racism where, it's very obvious and people are doing horrible things like, um writing the N-word on people's houses, killing people, that kind of thing. There's also microaggressions, which are like small ways of really whittling down like your resolve,
Yeah.
and then there's also structural racism, which is like you know which is like the big thing is like it's not just like racism is like this act that like people do, and you like either do a racist thing or you don't, or you are a racist person or you're not. It's like it's actually embedded into our system. So a lot of times,
Codified.
right, it's codified into our system. And so a lot of times we're like, sometimes like we don't even think we're contributing to this structural racism, but we are. Like, you know, especially
I guess it's what is it? It's called like de jure racism, and de facto racism is like the specific policies that are codified that create those disparities, and the de jure racism is the like the effects of those policies, or the practical implications of those policies if they're not worded in a way such as to be on the face racist.
yeah, it's kind of like the thing is like all these microaggressions and all these big racist acts, like it is of course important to, you know, punish these acts to make people know that this is not okay. But if you only work to resolve those without addressing the bigger problem of structural racism, that our system is racist, then it's going to keep happening, you know? Like this, like, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, this is happening because our system has racism built into it, you know, which is a thing, like it's a part of capitalism, you know, like racism is a part of capitalism. So it all kind of comes down to that.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, right? What is capitalism other than a system that is really reliant on labor?
Mhm.
And so, like, if you can kind of dehumanize a population, and then if you can dehumanize maybe more than one population, and then consequently devalue the labor they output, like, in sweatshops or in private prisons or whatever, then you can benefit from the labor, and shit, you can even create whole markets of middlemen to 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 package and redistribute the services garnered from the labor that you are probably even subsidized for not
Mhm.
paying. Oh man, yeah, no, it really does run deep. So it's like, of course, you
Mhm.
would benefit from the tools and propaganda tools and mass information tools and, religious tools, and deeply embedding in people's personal philosophy tools that would allow you to sow division and stigmatize certain populations, and then create policies that do commit atrocities to those populations, and no one's going to really speak out for them because they're not going to really view them as human because of all those years and this massive information machine that kind of turns them into less than, like 60% of human or something.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when there was like slavery, like slaves only counted as like 2/3 of a person, which is
Three
like,
fifths, three fifths compromise,
oh yeah, sorry, that was the incorrect fraction. 3/5 of a person.
60%.
That's fucking really, that's so shitty. Like that's really shitty. And like,
But that was
you know,
after that was put into the Constitution, and I was like,
yeah.
so that was the Bill of Rights.
And it's just like I think here's the thing for me is like people look at everything that we've got going on now. Like we've got like, you know, we've got issues of sexism, of racism, economic inequality, we've got global warming, we've got I there's so many more, but I like can't think of any more right now. So anyway, let's just, you
We got
know,
a lot of shit going on.
there's so much shit going on. White
It's
supremacy.
January
Um
10th, 2021. We still got kids in cages. We still got lead in Flint.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
we still got Indonesian slaves in Saudi Arabia. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
This all it's not, I think people become so discouraged because they look at this and they see we have 1,000 problems to solve. And it's like, the thing is, people don't realize that these thousands of problems come from one tree trunk, and that is capitalism. Capitalism is like the root cause of why we have all these things. So instead of viewing it in this way of like, we have 1,000 small tree branches to like, that are dead that we have to like, take care of and fix, just consider this as part of a bigger thing, because all of these are symptomatic of capitalism, like late stage capitalism. Like, how many more times can I say capitalism? Like, this
A
is,
few more. And it's
yeah,
gonna push us up in the algorithm.
like, these are all stemming from that one cause. And that's why there are so many people out there realizing, like, what the fuck? This is really fucked up. Like, um, so we need to like find a way to like, address that first. But,
Yeah, I mean, but what can you and I do other than have these kind of, well, I guess this is, oh, there goes the mic. This is kind of like my personal philosophy and aim, and I guess how I'm trying to manifest that. But like, what more can you and I do other than having these kind of long form, comfortable conversations that are, sure, somewhat performative, but having these long, comfortable conversations, familiarity, uh, not taking white fragility as a given, it's not really motivating the things that we talk about between each other, right? And then having these kind of conversations be broadcasted for, I guess, younger people to kind of see and kind of decode whatever programming may be in there, which is why, like conversations like this would focus on retroactively viewing different types of programming that we've undergone, or things that we recognize in, in emerging patterns, different generations, different, subgroups and different populations. And so what more
um
can we really do, other than creating calls to action by bringing people in? But I mean, but then again, I don't know.
well, I mean, I think it's going to require a lot of things to happen. Like, I don't think that talking to people one on one, especially in like friendly ways, like, I don't think that it's useless to do that. I think that is how a lot of like people like kind of realize what's going on. Like, I was just talking to a friend about this earlier today, but like, the moment and we say this sometimes, like, in the left, but like, became like radicalized to like more socialist policies, I was like, I mean, it wasn't like the moment, but like the seeds of this were planted when I was like young, when I was like 14 or whatever. Went to my local Barnes and Noble. I saw some books that the staff recommended. There was a book called Nickel and Dimed by Barbara Ehrenreich, who is like, you know, honorary DSA member, and DSA stands for Democratic Socialists of America. But she's an honorary DSA member. The book was about how people who are working everyday jobs, working two jobs just to survive, like what their lives were like for them and how it was all really fucked up and unjust. And I remember that book being like a really like, I was like, oh shit, like I was like, oh shit. And then I let it like didn't think about it for a while after. Like it took me a while to get there. Like, I mean, I have to admit here, like, and I am saying this, I did vote for Hillary in 2016. My journey to become like a,
How's that controversial? That's controversial.
um, I don't know, like whatever. I don't know. It doesn't
No, I
matter.
mean the way you disclaimed that was just kind of like, okay, where is this
Well, okay,
flavor coming
because
from?
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like back then in 2016, I really wasn't really thinking that much about stuff. I was like, oh yeah, Hillary, like Democrat. Like, yeah, gonna vote for her. It was after that election that I became involved in, like, like socialist politics and stuff. I really like learned a whole lot. And like, of course it was like a painful process to learn, because learning is painful. I don't think people realize that learning is necessary, but learning is painful. You learn a lot of things, you have to unlearn a lot of things, and that's how you fucking grow, you know? Um and so yeah, it was that. And also there was this other book that was on the table at Barnes and Noble. It was called like something like Confessions of an Economic Hitman or something, but like
Yeah.
both of them were like very like, I remember reading them, and they planted the seeds of like, oh, maybe the US isn't that great. Maybe things aren't that okay. Like, remember how I told you I grew up kind of sheltered? Like, I
Right.
think these were the first times I was like,
Right. I mean, you grew up in
things are,
Texas. I grew up in Mississippi. Rugged individualism,
yes.
American exceptionalism runs very deep. It goes hand in hand with whitewashing of curriculum
Mm-hmm.
that we take for granted and don't really work to unlearn, as you said 12 minutes ago. That to unlearn, which was painful, and painful realizations of stuff like that, and then looking back at your curriculum growing up, even though if you grew up with good education, it's not necessarily good education, because the environment in which you presented these things, you know uh people take things for a given. And we've even seen more and more stories the last 4 years of different teachers or school administrators, trying to pull some dumb shit, like where
Yeah.
they like want to argue, like Scopes monkey trial stuff, where they want to argue against evolution, or even now with like the 1619 project, which is saying it's like, yeah, slaves didn't really have as good of a time as all the history books are saying. And it's like, maybe rethink that. And then it's become a huge Republican talking point where they're saying, oh, they're trying to teach us terrorist whatever. And it's like, what do you mean terrorist whatever? Being saying that teaching a curriculum that teaches kids that slaves were humans? That's you know
Yeah, like
like
I really think about I think I wrote this down one day when I was kind of high, but like I really think about like, do people not realize like how fucking horrible it is to like be in a place like that? Like, I mean, just what their experience must have been like, really. Like, I think that, uh ENFP part of me is just like,
what does that mean?
it's the Myers-Briggs personality test. ENFP stands for like empathetic. I forgot what the N part stands for. And then the F is feeling, the P is perceptive. It's just like what kind of personality you are. So I'm just saying, in this case, the empathetic part of me is just like, what in the fuck? Like, I was reading about something and I can't remember what, but I was thinking of like, they were talking about how like Native Americans, they like would skin them alive. Can you imagine? Like, can you imagine someone bringing a razor to your skin and fucking skinning you alive? Like,
That
I
man's
really can't.
name is Andrew Jackson.
Yeah, fuck him. He sucks. Like, so many of our presidents just suck. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, no,
I
no,
just, it's
it's
fucking
called
horrible.
flaying. It's called flaying, and like
Yeah.
I took like this classic literature, whatever ancient literature class in college, and it was like a big thing in Roman and Greek literature and stuff, talking about flaying, and it's just like,
It's horrible.
but to commit an atrocity like that, you can't believe your victim is human.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Like, and that kind of thinking has still like followed us to this day. Like we are treating, we're treating Black Americans like they're not human.
Yeah.
It's fucking horrible. Like, you know,
I mean, just look. Okay, once again, I'll say the day we're recording, January 10th, 2021. 4 days ago, we had the storming of the Capitol. Um, Another Capitol officer just died, by the way, committed suicide as a result of the trauma or
I
whatever.
actually didn't read about that
Yeah,
yet.
one Capitol officer died as a result of medical complications. Four or three of the rioters, terrorists, I guess whatever the media is trying to call them or whatever we're trying to call them, I don't know. But basically a huge group that assembled at the incitement of the president and his people with the intention to assassinate the members of the legislative branch of government, one of the three. So it really it was an incited attack from the executive branch on the legislative branch. And like if you really think about that, and it's like with the intention of eliminating the whole line of succession.
I mean, we knew that Trump was like trying to like he was like definitely on his way to becoming a dictator. And you know what? I don't want to say he's not, you know.
I
I
mean,
don't
I
know.
mean,
We don't really know.
if fascism won, DSA would have to stand for "Don't Speak in America."
I mean,
That's a
here's
bad
the
joke.
thing is like, a lot of political scientists are saying now that like um after an attempted coup, usually what follows is a successful coup. So that's something that we really have to, look out for. And like,
Yeah,
you
but I
know,
mean, you could always argue that the coup happened a long time ago when you look at like regulatory and private capture of different functions of government. And, something like Citizens United, that was kind of a coup because it was a seizure of control of the levers of government, for interests other
yeah.
than the interests that they're codified for. um, but, and then you also look at shit, you look at the useful idiots, right? You know, if if politics really is a a conflict between collective bargaining for finite resources, then you're gonna have to have the higher you're gonna have to the only way you can wield any sort of influence or uh, garner more of the resources out of that finite pool is to have a higher contingent of people in your collective bargaining. And so easy as and if there's such a thing as the opiate of the masses or whatever, which is like religion and I guess fascism now too, religion and racism, opiate of the masses, right? And you use those kind of things to dehumanize other populations, then of course you can have a higher bargaining chip. And of course, why wouldn't you want to tribalize the people that you see in all of these positions of influence? And of course, why wouldn't you want to create a boogeyman that's like with a name like Antifa, which actually
Which
means
is
anti-fascism?
right. Like you know what? Like news organizations should really just like
So
instead of
yeah,
like
what's the deal with that?
Antifa, anti-fascist. Like, are you serious? Like
So
people who
okay,
don't want fascism? It's ridiculous.
so Lily, you
Yeah.
have academically gone through the rungs of intense journalism stuff, right? Whatever, and
I mean,
you're aware of what journalistic ethics and all this stuff, and the what it was like the Free Fair Use Act or something. What was the thing in television or whatever that made it to where like journalistic standards have to be neutral, and then that was kind of gutted or something. But what is up with pulling the punches? Is it just that there's too much legal liability for saying things that may, or what? Like, what's the deal with that? What's the deal with these news headlines constantly pulling punches, not really saying, uh, "Oh, anti-fascist forces." Instead, they say Antifa.
I think that you're asking really good questions, by the way, and you should keep asking them. Um, I appreciate them. I feel like I haven't been asked these things in a while. Um, that's a fucking great question and something that I wonder all the time because, as someone who has done journalism for a long time, has, is familiar with what the whole point is and everything. Like
Yeah,
the whole point of journalism is like, to report on everything going on. You're like literally just supposed to be the eyes for the people. However, and sometimes with opinion columns also like, here's our analysis of whatever. But anyway, uh, being objective is a huge thing in American journalism and journalism in general. And I think objectivity is very important. I think though that now it's kind of being tied into this weird thing of like centrism.
what do you
Like
mean?
I think that we have somehow like journalism has like kind of misunderstood that in order to be objective you have to be centrist because there's a saying in journalism that there's always like both sides of the story, like there's like what one guy says and the other guy, but it's actually like so easy to manipulate that because I think one thing is that with especially with our politics now, we look at one side as being the Republicans and the other side as being the Democrats, but it's actually it's like not a correct like binary that
Right.
we're pairing here because it's actually Republicans and Democrats. Like if you look at this through the lens of capitalism, which I think a lot of journalists just haven't really done yet because they're kind of entrenched in like the old ways of looking at things. Like Republicans and Democrats are actually both a part of a more like, corporate capitalist structure. Like they're both pretty much on the conservative side now.
Yeah.
Like, and so when you make them the ends of the spectrum, of course you're going to say that center is in the middle of them. And at that point, all three, like Republicans, Democrats, and what you think is in the middle of them, they're all on the conservative side. Like they have been pushed more and more to the right. And then you have like,
Artificial competition.
I don't know what you mean by that, but
Well, I mean, it's like a thing. It's like a thing. If you're creating a market, right? If you're a company creating a market, you create artificial competition, and then you vertically integrate or whatever to control the competition, and then you got boom, two streams of revenue that are competing with each other, and they're not necessarily driving down the prices because you control the supply of the prices, right? You kind of set the market and you build a hype. You know,
yeah, okay. No, that makes sense. Like to recognize that they are the same animal is like pretty important because
right, but you also
I
have to be wary of the false equivalence, right? It's not necessarily
yeah,
that they're both conservative, because there also is a huge faction that's gaining a lot of power and influence. It's not really conservative. It's actually kind of radical, the fascism stuff, right? And to say that that is the same as conserving the status quo isn't necessarily the that nuance can also be overlooked in the discussions about there being the equivalence, right? And so that nuance can also, that lack of that nuance can be weaponized against nuanced discussions about like what is the best option, right? It allows us to be infinitely reductive, like as we remember in our fresh memory about the election period, we can be infinitely reductive about any argument saying why Joe Biden would be a better pick than Trump, right? We can be infinitely reductive about any argument. It's like why Hillary would be a better pick than Trump. These are our alternatives, right? By saying they're both the same, you got to make those mental justifications to say that they're both the same, right? And then it's obviously that those thoughts and those arguments serve one specific side of that spectrum,
Okay,
right?
I think that I was following what you're saying. If not, please correct me. But I think that yeah, it is a false equivalency in some sense, but like you can recognize that they're not exactly the same. Like perhaps that wasn't the right way to put it. They're not, of
No,
course
no,
they're not.
I'm just pushing back a little bit. I want
Yeah,
you to
no, no, no.
yeah,
It's good. I appreciate this. I think that like yeah, of course they're not exactly the same. However, you can recognize that both are complicit aspects of what it takes to uphold, you know, a structure that, and by the way, if people don't know like what capitalism does, maybe they should know, but like so according to Karl Marx, like capitalism is an economic system where basically you have like a small group of people that make money off of a larger group of people,
yeah,
like everybody else, and they earn their wealth, they earn their money by paying them less. And so whenever we see things now about how all these rich people became millionaires or earned their money, it's not because they put hard work into it. And that's the myth that we've been fed to believe. But it's really literally that they're just paying us less money. And that's how they become rich. And
right.
then,
It's easier to pay more people less money and then
yeah,
just program ways for them to believe that they're not getting paid less.
exactly. And that's why whenever I see people complain about things like taxes are too high now, it's kind of like you're complaining about taxes being like this big, right? Like this is the amount of taxes you're paying, this is the amount of money you're making. This is the amount of money you should be making. So what you really should be mad about is not how much taxes you're paying, but how much money your boss isn't paying you, because it's so much more than you should be paying than you're paying in taxes. Like that's the whole thing for me. And like, you know, according to like Marx's economic theory, like you move through different economic periods. Like first we had like, and might need to fact check me on this because I'm not like 100% sure I have this
One
right.
of our 10 viewers will fact check. Well, probably
Okay,
not. Never
great.
mind, they won't.
Okay, I might fact check myself after this, so you can edit me, splice
I'm
me
not doing the
the
extra
right
work
thing.
to edit any of this.
I'm going to like
I'm
fact check
gonna send this
myself.
to you though before so you can look.
Okay,
And so if you
yeah.
see any beeps or whatever, those are at Lily's discretion.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I don't want to be like totally wrong here, but like there is barbarism, right? Which is just
Mhm.
fucking people doing whatever the fuck they want. There's no rules and everything is chaos.
Natural
Uh,
state of man.
yeah. Well, I disagree with that, but that's okay. We can get to that. Then there's slavery, right? Where you have one person that like owns other people, right? So that was an economic system. Out of slavery developed feudalism, which is like lords and serfs, right? So now you have like people that kind of like work for the man, but it's kind of a little bit like slavery, but it's also not exactly like that. And then from feudalism, you develop capitalism, right? And then after capitalism is
Well,
supposed to be socialism and then communism.
okay. Is this the natural state cycle of development, or is this just looking at our history or history of humans? Because like, right, going from like feudalism to capitalism, you have something like the industrial revolution and
Yeah.
something like that, but like, is that a natural occurrence? And
He's
something
saying,
like in this cycle, is this cycle a natural thing that would happen? Like, let's say on Mars, if intelligent life were to develop and form societies and whatever, would this be a natural cycle to you know to work in their society? Is what I'm asking. Or
so,
you're ignorant.
according to Karl Marx's economic theory, that is what would happen, right?
Okay.
Like his theory is that society goes through all these phases. Again, gonna want to fact check all of this. I will want to anyway.
We
Like
won't do that.
like I'm like 90% sure I have this right, but I haven't really like, gone on air to be like, blah, socialism. But anyway, so according to him, that is what happens. And under capitalism, pretty much what he's saying is that people would rather have fascism than have socialism. And look at what we're seeing now. We have Trump.
Why?
Why?
Why would
Because
they rather?
why would they rather?
That's the why I'm asking. Yeah, why would they
Yeah,
rather?
that these are all good questions that are really hard to answer, but I still
No,
appreciate.
take a crack at it. That's I
No,
mean that's
yeah,
there's no
no, I
pressure
love it.
here. There's no pressure here. I said 10 people might watch this, but it's probably gonna be close to like 6. So
No, it's good. It's good. Okay, why would we have fascism instead of
why would we
socialism?
prefer as people? Why would we prefer fascism over socialism? And you don't even really have to give me specifics because we have all lived the last 4 years.
Yeah, it's kind of like because with fascism, you don't have our economic system changing. You have the same people that are like in power, and they're like telling people like, oh, I can like make you rich or whatever.
Like a
You just have to
kleptocracy,
listen
right?
to me. Yeah,
It's a
and like
kleptocracy.
um
Or like an oligarchy, but it's controlled by
yeah.
inept families.
Yeah. And with socialism, like the whole idea of socialism is that like, and the funny thing about it is like everything that people complain about socialism, they're like, oh, these are bad things. It's actually a lot of the time capitalism. Like what they're complaining about is capitalism. And
What do you mean?
like they complain about like, oh, like I can't believe I'm getting paid like, this amount of money, or like I can't think of exact examples. I don't have a like
Right.
good example for this, but like, a lot of the times like I feel like yeah, like I'm trying to think of a specific example here.
But it probably has to do with individual in and out, right? Incoming versus outgoing, and it's just like looking at it at an individual mindset, right? So it's like, why can't we have free healthcare or assume that healthcare is a right? Well, because I don't want anybody that's not paying as much as I am to have the same thing that I have. I
Yeah,
have, because I have to look at.
yeah.
But if I were to step back and look at it at a societal level, I would see that, oh, okay, well, these are the inequities in the system. These are where these prices are hyperinflated. So that doesn't necessarily need to be the case. These are where these services are being middlemaned, right? And repackaged. And it's like, oh, I can go to the bottom man instead of the middleman and get why don't we link the consumer to the people that are producers directly instead of having an overinflated system? It's like, but you don't even think about that because you have to have faith in collective change for something like that. And maybe we have faith in collective change when it is led by a strongman authoritarian.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it better.
You don't think so?
Like, I think that's really yeah, sorry, by the way, I think I'm like only like I keep pouring more into my martini glass, but like I'm pretty drunk. This is like I'm like 2 drinks in of like 2 pretty stiff drinks.
No, this is
And
like,
so,
okay,
but
so
this is great. I'm having a great time.
this
My
is
brain is being exercised.
we are in a pandemic in
Yeah.
quarantine. So this is like, think of this, if you're watching or listening, as like a nice virtual alternative for having gone out by yourself to some random bar and overhearing 2 really fucked up friends talking in the corner about all sorts of wild shit and not really sticking to the coherent outline
Like,
one of them
have
made.
you ever wanted to see a Facebook argument happen in real life? Tune in to Love Agrawal's podcast.
No, that should be our log line. This is what Facebook threads and
That's what it honestly it's a little bit like that. Like definitely less vitriolic, like way more intelligent, but like, you know, it has kind of the overtones of like a Facebook argument. Um
Yeah,
but
yeah. We definitely, I
any-
definitely don't substantiate my shit with research.
what were what were you asking me before?
About um like why we prefer
Oh,
fascism over
fashion.
socialism.
Yeah.
Why do we prefer fascism over socialism
Yeah.
yeah
That's a good question and one that
collectively?
I need to look into more before answering you.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I don't actually know why because I think it's kind of wild, right? Why people would
But we have seen
do
it
that.
play out. We've seen, and we're literally, once again, January 10th, 2021, 4 days ago. Now we were seeing in the main conversation sphere, we're seeing how the big terrorist attack at the Capitol, where people are waving the Trump flags and are actually like documented Trump supporters, as you see them at all his rallies and stuff, and like have whole fan clubs that they've been running and moderating for years. They're being called Antifa now because people have recognized, right? So it's like you see, and everyone already takes, like, they'll take the Kool-Aid, right? And so it's like that's already a thing, and that is happening, and we see it play out in real time. We see the influence and authority of experts and learned experts and all that stuff be gutted, right, with doubt, right? Any inch of plausible deniability is turned into a mile of full-fledged denial. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and people are very comfortable blowing up the inch of plausible deniability, because if you're like a scientifically inclined person, you're going to always leave room for plausible deniability, because, like, yeah, well, the theory of gravity is still just a theory. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, because we put the whole scientific method on it, and it's not necessarily a law, because that there are exceptions in certain circumstances, and there's like relativity where we don't really understand how it functions, so therefore it is not fully taken for granted. And so, but these guys have flipped it to where it's like, if there is an inch of doubt that the blueprints for this pizza parlor are different, then of course there's a sex dungeon. And if there's a sex dungeon in there, of course they're trafficking children, right? And they're like, that has to be a given. These people are murderers, right? The earth is flat. But then it's like, then you have the world of experts and scientists like, well, we got to make sure that our articles are peer reviewed, meaning that it's got to be reviewed. And just like how you're saying, we got to fact check this. No, nobody gives a shit. It's just verbal diarrhea over and over. This is soothing to you for I don't know what reason. You have 73 million people that needed to be told that they're loved and very special, but for 4 years, right, you got to tell, you spend trafficking in toxic masculinity and saying that, oh, you're just a snowflake, you think you need to be special. And it's like, you literally have this dude, the strongman authoritarian, pacifying you, placating you, telling you you're very special, telling you you're very smart. Any challenge that comes to him, he's like, don't tell me I'm not smart. I'm smarter than you. I'm the smartest there is. You're the least smartest person in the room. I'm the most smartest. Right? Like, that's the level of discourse.
So I don't really know exactly. I've been trying to figure out why things are the way they are. Like, what happened? Um, I haven't really done enough research about it though to like, and
But
by
even
enough,
that level of doubt,
yeah.
right? That level
Well,
of doubt, like, I haven't done enough
I think.
research about it, so I can't talk about it. But you are a smart person that has been educated, that is perceptive, that is seeing all this shit unfold in real time, and just naturally having that little bit of hesitancy to make an authoritative conclusion or a conclusive opinion about something
Mhm.
has to speak to something,
I mean,
that inclination.
I mean, I think me being educated and stuff really doesn't have that much to do with it. Like, I mean, I think, you know, personally speaking, I think I kind of went to school and didn't really even realize the privilege of my education until much later, and like really didn't learn enough. Not enough, but like as much as I could have. But um, I think that something definitely happened to these people to like make them turn into this way. And I think that thing, part of it is just like white supremacy. You know, it's like when, and I might want this part to not make it depending on like what I say. But
Well, there it is. There's our inclination to coddle white fragility and our fear,
exactly,
our like to death fear
you're
of making
right.
a transgression, right? And believing the white woman that calls the police on the black
Wow.
man because I don't want her to feel embarrassed. Why is it that the number one fear for minorities is death, but the number one fear for white people is public speaking, not feeling shame? Why is it that the horror movies that work so well in America, or those tense moments, have to do with moments about being publicly shamed or ashamed or embarrassed, whereas where it's like the horror movies in the rest of the world have to do with like literally losing your life, or like giant forces in which human life becomes minuscule and irrelevant?
Dude, you bring up a good point, and like I don't think I realized that until you said that, but like yeah, I am like kind of like I
It
don't
took a
want to
lot of alone time to think of those
people.
things.
Yeah, no, but for real, like I think that shit, what were we saying?
Okay, let's do our segment. Our segment, okay. Our segment is called Tokenized or Fetishized.
Okay.
Now, I think I told this to you before or prepped you for this in our earlier call, but I don't remember if I did. But what I'm no, don't even worry about it. What I'm gonna ask you, and I'm sure you got one on deck. Give me a story or something from your history, your experience, your life, whatever, in which you're either tokenized or fetishized, and then explain to us why one or the other and what that means. Or maybe they're not mutually exclusive.
Okay, yeah, I'll do my best. I don't
Yeah.
really know that much the difference between, but I think maybe kind of. Um, so I guess the story that comes to mind for me is this time I was at a bar and I was just like hanging out with my friends, and some random guy comes up to me and he's like, "Oh hey, what's your name?" kind of thing, and I was like, I don't want to talk to this fool, you know, whatever." Well, no, he didn't ask me what my name was. I'm sorry. He was just like, "Hey, like, oh, you're cute. Like, where are you from?" That kind of
Where are you
thing. And
from?
I was like, "Yeah." He asked me where I was from, and I was like, "Okay,
Like
first of all,
Austin,
you
Texas?
interrupted
I'm
me."
guessing Austin, Texas.
I mean, I actually didn't even say that because first of all, he
No, I'm asking. Did this take place in Austin or did this
oh
take place
no,
in
this happened
Brooklyn?
in New York City. This
Okay, this
happened
happened in New York City. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
Um
continue. I just
I
wanted to
actually
establish setting.
yeah, no, I'm trying to remember the exact specifics of this because I kind of forgot, but he kind of like he came up to me and he was like talking to me and he was like, "Oh, like you know, where are you from?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't really know. Like my parents died in a car crash." And he was like, "Oh, oh, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "Yeah."
I don't
And
really
he, I was just like, "Yeah, it's just so sad." And he was just like, "Oh, yeah, I just wanted to like, you know, come over here to like speak a different language with someone." And I was just like, "I'm really sorry. I don't know a different language, you know?" And he was like, okay, well, yeah,
Wait,
no,
wait, 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 wait. He said, I just wanted to come over here and speak a different language with someone.
yeah,
No, did I get that right? Okay,
yeah,
continue. hey,
yeah.
so hey, so I
No,
just
I
wanted to
know.
come over here and speak a different language with someone.
I was like, bitch, I'm from here. Like, I don't speak whatever language you want. Do you want to speak French? We can speak French. You know, like, I don't speak whatever you think I speak. Or maybe I do, but it's not your business. Anyway, so I always said that. And then he was just like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, whatever. And like, oh, what's your name? And I told him my name was Jennifer and I let him go. So none of that interaction, like, yeah, I lied to him the entire interaction because I don't think I owe him the truth. I had someone
No,
tell me that they think the social contract is that you should tell people the truth, but they're a white person. I disagree. I don't think
I
I owe
think
people the truth
I think the
unless
social
I know them.
contract. I think the social contract for minorities that have very obvious faces is just an implied no solicitor sign.
Thank you. Yes, that's how I feel. I'm just kind
Right?
of, well, here's the thing also is like I was doing something and you came and interrupted me. Like, are we not going to talk about the amount of times that like I'm doing something? This happens for minorities as well as women, and especially if you're a minority woman, but like you're doing something and a man comes up to you and he's like, excuse me, ma'am. And I'm like, oh, cool. I wasn't just solving how to figure out cancer and cure it. Thanks for interrupting me, you know? And then I have
or
feelings.
I was just talking about Sex in the City with my friends. Let's keep it real.
Shut up. No, it wasn't.
I know that.
Yeah, no, but I was just like, okay, cool. This guy's gonna fucking interrupt me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like, anyway, before we talk about tokenized or
Right.
fetishized, I need to pee really bad.
I'm gonna
I've
pause.
been
I'm gonna
drinking
pause.
this for
Okay, so yeah, we just had to pause for a second,
Mhm.
but we were at the tokenizer fetishized story you told us about. This guy asked you. This was in New York, so it's not some like bumfuck Texas thing. But he's like, I just wanted to speak another language, and that's how it's.
Yeah.
And so, tokenized or fetishized? Explain what happened to you. Were you fetishized or were you tokenized, or what's the difference? Is there a difference?
I don't really know if there's a difference, but like I feel like tokenized is probably just being like stereotyped, and fetishized is like stereotype plus like a sexual aspect to it. I feel like because he was hitting on me at a bar and he was like trying to get my number, fetishized.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like
I want to hear another accent. Right?
yeah, I
You're
was just
exotic.
like I was like, man, fuck you. I'm not like a sex toy. Like fuck off. Like
I guess if you were tokenized in that situation, it would be like, hey, I speak Japanese. Can you speak Japanese with me? Even though I know personally,
yeah,
I know you're not Japanese. I'm saying
right, right.
that would be the thing.
Yeah, I think when you're tokenized, it's more like, oh, your ethnicity is being used in a way to I don't know, justify something. Like, oh, like I'm like say I'm Japanese, like, oh, I'm Japanese and Japanese people like blah. And it's like, oh, thank you for like, being used in my joke or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
This
you
is my
were,
third martini. I'm like pretty drunk.
like I said, this is like a proxy night for anybody listening, and this episode should go viral, just for like, think of it as
Oh,
like ASMR at a rowdy, not really upscale bar somewhere in Manhattan, but kind of like a dive bar in Manhattan, but still charges $20 a beer. So think of it like that. And then these are the two this is two friends in a corner who are in their 30s and just kind of exchanging a whole bunch of platitudes with each other very drunkenly, and this is your proxy experience for that this episode.
We are more than just
Right.
drunk friends in our 30s. We are
I'm underselling it. You're right. This is a great conversation. I'm
we're
totally.
yeah, we're having a great conversation. We're drunk friends in our 30s on a podcast. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
Basically, yeah.
Are
Um,
you drunk? I'm drunk. I
no,
don't
no,
think
I'm not. I'm not. I was just. We're just. We're just gonna whatever.
yeah.
But one thing I did want to, I guess, the last kind of thing we could talk about on this is moving to New York. You and I both moved around 30ish, right? And so that's a little later, not later in life, but not at the beginning of adulthood,
Okay.
early on in adulthood. So we came to New York with possibly different intentions that someone would come here like after college or after high school or something to find their life, right? We came in with a different kind of energy. And so I was talking about how that kind of energy of being able to just like view other people around us as peers, because we all have our own life experiences, and you don't need to have like these preconceptions about what other people do, because when you live up here you just see people as regular and working. Some people make a lot more money than others because they just have jobs that pay them a lot more, but they probably also have a lot of other responsibilities and they don't get to be as happy. There's always whatever, there's always a other side to things. So but coming to New York, you and I both came here in our 30s ish, height of, I came here right after the election from Mississippi. I came here on Christmas Day of 2016 because that was the cheapest ticket flight I could get. And, this was in Mississippi right after Trump won. So it was just kind of becoming a toxic environment for me. And I didn't have growth potential. And, I just kind of wanted to chill out and live and see. And so I haven't really had much of a strategy to life, and I feel like the 4 years of being here has just kind of been like um you know not really pushing forward or living that New York life, right? And you moved here in 2019 before the pandemic. You put in a like almost a year here, and
Yeah.
and then pandemic hits and you don't leave. So you are literally here during a momentous historic occasion in New York life that defines a moment in most people's lives that are here. Like, what was the experience like in New York when you're here during the pandemic? And you're here for that, but you're new. You're still
Um.
new. Like, you're still like only a year here, so you still like all the idiosyncrasies of New York living. You still haven't absorbed. I still haven't absorbed, right? So
Um.
you're still new, and
Yeah.
then the pandemic hits, and you're living here during the pandemic. So what I wanted to do on this episode, and I know we've had a really long episode so far, so this is kind of the last thing, is I wanted you to kind of talk about your mentality throughout the pandemic, right? You're new coming up March, April, you're a new New Yorker. You don't understand what's going on. You're just working and living. You're trying to make friends. You probably made a couple of friends. You're making connections. You're just figuring out things, right? And then the thing hits, you're quarantined, and now we're like 10 months later. So like what is kind of the thought process there? Because I want to take that to where we were talking about earlier. I think it was off camera, but we were talking about how it's crazy to live here. We've always thought about living here, but you and I both came up here and during political turmoil, and so we didn't really get that kind of life to kind of stretch out and explore and be whimsical about things. It's really just about coming up here and trying to find a create a nest egg, or like not even be able to create a nest egg, but just like latch on, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so tell me about the thought process during the pandemic and like should I stay in New York? What's the point of even coming up here? Did I fuck up? Or I did the right thing by moving here?
Um, these are great questions, by the way. I think that when when I moved here, it was basically me fulfilling this promise to myself of over 16 years that I wanted to move here. And so it was just kind of like I had a good friend who like basically she didn't like necessarily force my hand, but she was like, I don't want to have this conversation with you in 10 years when you have a kid and you're like telling me you wish you moved here. And I was like, oh, fuck, you're right. But I think that moving here and then living through this pandemic, it was a good thing. Like, we're coming up on 1 year, the 1 year anniversary of like lockdown starting. And
Oh yeah.
that part is insane to me because I'm just like, what?
Oh my
We've been
god.
almost a year in lockdown. It's insane.
That's right. The day before lockdown was a very vivid memory for me too, because I was
Yes.
doing a gig just as a
You
normal.
were what?
I was doing a gig like photo.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like as normal a normal day, and then it's like, oh yeah, what yeah, I'll just go to Rite Aid to get the things I need, I'm sure.
Yeah. My birthday was a few days before lockdown officially hit. So that was weird because I
Yeah.
invited a few friends to hang out and a lot of friends canceled. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then within that weekend, I got laid off from my job, both jobs,
Wow.
mind you, both jobs. And all of this shit started happening. And I was like, oh shit, this is a real big thing. Because I'm not gonna lie, I was busy working two jobs up until that point. I didn't realize the severity of what was going on, and I was like, "Oh fuck!" I even told a cab driver, I was like, "Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal." I hope that cab driver is okay. I think about him all the time. But yeah, I will say, I think that me being in lockdown during this time and not leaving New York, I think in my position, like I thought about it and like I think that for me it's been okay because I've been wanting to leave my hometown, Houston, for so long now. And it's been good for me to have this time to like really think about what I want. Like I haven't been working, like
Mhm.
what's the point? Like my old jobs, like one of my old jobs, I found out they closed for a second time because people were not obeying the mask policy, and I fucking knew that was gonna happen. That's why I didn't apply because I was like, what's the point in applying for this job? Because I know that guests are gonna like this isn't my first rodeo. I know that people are gonna spit in my drink and be like, Miss, you didn't make this cocktail right. And I was like, I'm not doing that. This is the only time in my life where people won't look down on me for like, taking this time to not be employed because they understand it's a pandemic. And I was like, as much as I hate the fact that I think about these things, I don't want to say Asian, so I think about this. It's not just that, I'm sure. But I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna take this time to really think about what I want and really just try to like work towards that. So, I've been taking classes for other stuff to try to switch careers because for me, service was never the end point. I think service was such a great job moving here because like
Mhm.
I made really quick friends. And if you're in a new city, there's really no better job. It's like if you don't have any friends, if you don't know people, working service is such a great job for that. But I definitely don't want to do that long term. And now that I'm learning other stuff, I'm like really grateful that I've been able to be here and to think about what I want my next move to be. And also just like spend a lot of this time like thinking about who I want to be as a person, that kind of thing. I think it's really important to like really examine yourself every now and then and like kind of look in that mirror and be like, is this who I want to be? Because I mean, I honestly, I can't say for everybody else, but I know for me, like, I'm like constantly looking in that mirror being like, is this the person that I want to be? Because if not, I want to change this, you know?
And you never really got to do that before. You didn't really get the space to do that kind of thing before.
I mean, I did in Houston. However, like part of me becoming who I wanted to be was me moving here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, honestly, whether or not there was an objective reason, like good or bad, to move here, it doesn't even matter, right? Like, what mattered most to me was that I wanted to do this thing. Good or bad, doesn't matter. I wanted to do this thing. And if I didn't do this thing, I was going to keep doubting myself until I did it. And so I had to do it. And then I had to consider, like, other stuff, like whether this was good or bad, why I did this, that kind of thing. All of these things are important.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they are very important. And these kind of, I don't know if they call it meditation or whatever, but like I think about my habits, you know, binge eating, overconsumption or whatever. It stems from, I like to say boredom, but I think it's like fear of that, of thinking, right? Of having to think about what is the future, what is moving forward, right? And then getting in this pandemic and being so ill equipped for it and having to adapt at such a rapid pace is kind of like, okay, maybe I do have to think about what I have been doing and what is the why, right? Why am I easily manipulated to do things that I have been doing or let myself, you know, be convinced of things that I never had thought before in my headstrong mind, right? So it's like, what what am I doing now and why? And I still don't know the answer to this. I don't even know what this damn podcast is, right? Or this brand. And so it's like, uh-oh, what happened?
I have to pee. I'll be right back.
Okay, I'm pausing.
I think we all should be afforded this. This shouldn't be a luxury to be human and to like have a chance to explore what you're interested in. And yet we're told that it is supposed to be a luxury, you know?
Yeah, okay. Kind of. That, like, pursuing art is a luxury, or doing the thing you're trained to do is a luxury, or not compromising is a luxury, or
I
how do you?
mean, just the chance to be human shouldn't
Yeah.
be a luxury. The chance to be human, to figure out what you really enjoy doing, like to fulfill your total human potential, shouldn't have to be a luxury. I know I'm talking in kind of abstract terms here, whether that fits economically into fucking policy or whatever. Like, honestly, I think it does. You know why? We spend way too much on the military budget. You give a person like a fucking 1/10,000th of that or whatever, they will find a way to survive and be happy and make beautiful art that could possibly change the world.
But
And I don't want to be too
you
idealistic here,
give
but like we do spend way too much on the military budget.
okay, but hear me out. You give people 1/10 of that, sure. You give people
One
nothing,
tenth?
or no, no,
Let's
or
not
one
talk about
hundred. No,
one
no, no,
tenth.
no, 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 no. No, hear me
Okay.
out. Hear me out.
All
You
right.
give people nothing, they will still adapt. They will still survive. They'll still create art. You kill people's conditions and disenfranchise them, they'll still adapt. They'll make better art. They'll make culture. And then you even disenfranchise them more. And it's just like, yo, they will be so valuable to your enterprise and create culture and create art and do all of this creative labor that you get to profit off of if you don't give them any of that military budget. You give them any of that military budget, why would you incentivize them to be? You're not incentivizing them to be creative for your own benefit. You're empowering them to be creative for their own benefit, right? So how does that benefit you?
What are you asking here?
I'm saying, think about it from an institutional perspective. So then your argument as to what it should be, right? Like I'm saying, this is the institutional perspective. Why would I want to give away any of that military budget? Because then I'm empowering people to pursue their own dreams. Why would I want to forgive student loans? Because then I'm unlocking a whole class of highly educated people, highly educated, creative people who have been struggling for years but know how to build systems and have the experience now. And I'm unlocking that whole class to be super entrepreneurial and create a whole new market and economy. But I'm not used to that. So why would I want to ever empower them when I can spend all this money in the military, right? And let all that money be embezzled by my friends.
Well, why do you think that?
No, I mean I'm asking you. I'm like
Well,
I'm like,
no, I'm asking you.
why do I think that? Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think that there are some people that don't have any empathy that will take whatever shot they can and that will use whatever means necessary to get those things that they want. And even if it's not a specific number or a tangible monetary thing, it's more of like an insatiable hunger and wanting to feed more and more of it. And so I think that it really fits into that institutional perspective, which I think is called like the rational actor model, which is like for a pure profit motive, which is why they call it the rational actor model in policy science. I don't know, but it's rational, right? Um, but I think that, yeah, lends itself to the institutional mindset that it's like, why would I create a safety net? Why would I say that healthcare is a human right? Why would I want to empower anybody? I know that the more they let me get away with, I can get away with, and that they will eventually adapt. They'll survive. They'll continue to make art. They'll continue to be entrepreneurial. But I'm going to nationalize all the levers of advancement.
Okay. Well, let's consider this from a different perspective. Why do we have elected officials in power who are asking things like, why should I not help people who are asking to be helped? Why should I not help people? You know, my fucking community, like the people that I'm supposed to represent. Why should I not represent them? It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like your literal job as a representative, as a politician, whatever, is to literally be the voice of these people. Like, if your community is saying, I think this, your job is to be like a megaphone being like, oh, I think this. Otherwise, get the fuck out of here. Like, get out of power. Like,
But then my
I,
argument would be they're not paying me as much as these fascists that are also paying my bosses.
I mean, if that's what you think, I don't care. Whatever. Get
Well, I
out
mean,
of.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like a lot of functions of government and a lot of figures in government are like it's private capture. Like their role is to serve their contingency, right? But that function can be captured by a private interest, lobbying or whatever. So it's like, so I'm saying I'm responding to you from the perspective of a rational actor in the position of a politician, right? So when I say to you that, well, yeah, these fascists are lining my pockets and the people in my district are dumb enough to believe whatever I say to them, whatever these fascists are telling me to say. So then what is my incentive for exercising empathy for these people that are dumb enough to vote against their own interests?
I think that when that happens, like if you manage to somehow be the elected official of like um a segment of the population who's like just voting the worst things.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell or Rand Paul. Uh,
Ugh.
so places in Kentucky, or
Yeah.
literally, yeah. So okay,
I think it's kind of like, I think the purist would say it's about representing exactly what these people represent. And to be honest, I haven't really thought that much about it yet, because I think a part of me really wants to believe that you should represent whatever these people like, whatever your what's the word for it? Whatever your like group of people,
contingency, right?
I guess, yeah, your whatever your contingency thinks that
Or no, not
it should
contingent,
be.
contingent.
I don't think it's either of those. I think it's something else. Let's delete this part of the podcast.
Alexa, what is the definition of contingent?
Contingent means dependent upon something.
Yeah, dependent for example. Alexa, what is the definition of contingency?
Contingency is usually defined as dependence on chance or on the fulfillment of a condition, uncertainty.
Alexa, what does a politician represent?
Here's something I found on Wiktionary. I have a few definitions for the noun politician. One engaged in politics, especially an elected or appointed government official. 2. Specifically, one who regards elected political office as a career. 3. A politically active or interested person. 4. A sly or ingratiating person.
Hmm. Oh, that's the last definition she had for a politician. But I wasn't asking for the definition for politician. I want to know, Alexa, what is the term for the group a politician represents?
Sorry, I don't know that.
Yeah, I didn't think she would know that one.
Alexa doesn't know anything. She
Yeah,
works with Jeff Bezos.
she probably does know a lot. I bet she's just overworked and doesn't get good bathroom breaks.
You're right. She's not getting paid her full amount. She should
If
join a union.
Alexa got a full night of sleep, and like maybe a day off. Yeah, I know you don't know that one.
Or she join a union and strike against Jeff Bezos. Just saying.
I know. And then we'd start hearing about the new voice called Alex.
Alex.
What is? I don't even know, what do politicians represent. I don't know. We
I
can't.
don't know. Well, I mean, here's
I
the
would have
thing.
known this
Like,
before internet.
here's the thing about politicians. By the way, how mad are you gonna be if I go outside my room into the kitchen and make myself a tamale because I'm
That's
gonna.
so funny. That's so funny. It's like literally this interview is just the stages of Lily's drunkenness. Right? This is great. No, but we are kind of just like derailing anyways. This has been a good episode. I'm gonna just end it. Do you want to plug anything?
Don't want to hug anything.
Plug anything to the 6 viewers.
I have a separate Instagram where I draw comics. It's really fun and cute bunnies, and sometimes they're mad about stuff.
Okay, well, I will link it here.
Cool.
And yeah, no, I mean, thank you for coming on. I don't know if this episode's gonna be a shit show or not, but I think it's gonna be good. I really do.
I think it'll be fun.
Yeah,
It'll be fun.
I do think we did touch on some like interesting things. So, but either way, I guess I did have an ulterior motive because I wanted us to catch up and all that. So
Yeah.
birds with one stone. But yeah, let's keep in touch. But thank you for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, we'll do it again sometime or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Was there anything else you wanted to ask me? Or maybe we talked.
Oh, what would you tell? What would you tell? Okay, yeah. So we already did the goodbye. So as soon as you give this answer, I'm just gonna end the recording. What would you
Okay.
tell? Knowing what you know now, what would you tell young Lily, 17, 20? What would you tell 20-year-old Lily that's still at Rice and still super
Neurotic.
neurotic, journalism focused, and probably thinks she has all the answers? What would you tell her?
I don't know. Just relájate, man. Just like relax. Like
Wait, what? What? What did you just say?
I said, relax, man, in Spanish.
Oh, okay.
A restaurant term. Like just it's fine. Relax. It'll be okay. Like sleep a little. Relax.
What was it? What
It'll
was it
be
you
fine.
said? What was it you said to me that you learned during quarantine? And then
Oh,
you need to
just
sleep,
that.
bitch.
I need to sleep, bitch.
You
Yeah.
need to sleep, bitch. It's like
You need to bitch. Yeah. Pretty much.
that's your mantra now, right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I slept more today because I was like, you need to sleep more, bitch.
You gotta add the bitch in there. You need to sleep more.
Yeah.
Bitch.
I mean, the bitch is implied. It's like whatever I say, it's implied. I'm just like, hey, you should make this for breakfast, bitch.
It's okay. So if you're talking to 20-year-old Lily, would she take that well? Hey,
Yeah,
bitch.
it's fine. Yeah,
Sleep more,
20-year-old
bitch.
Lily would get it. 20-year-old Lily would be more profane. She'd be like, oh, hey, you fucking dumb bitch. Why didn't you do this? The fuck is wrong with you? 20-year-old Lily would have been so mean. Like 33-year-old Lily's like much
Yeah.
more measured, I guess.
So
So
you just tell her to relax.
yeah, I mean, would 20-year-old Lily take that? No, she'd be like, fuck you, bitch. What the fuck do you know about anything? You're old and like have eye bags or whatever.
I never liked you anyways.
Right? You probably have gray hair by now, which I do, and it looks
Oh,
can't really see it. I've hidden it. So
I cannot see it.
yeah, I've got a few. I plucked some out, but it's like right here.
So
I-
all right, so just relax, young Lily, bitch.
Yeah,
But
sleep.
you
I would
need to sleep,
say
bitch.
sleep, bitch.
Okay, that's probably the best advice, because I try to ask this on most episodes. It's like, what would you say to your younger 20-year-old self? You need
Uh-huh.
to sleep, bitch.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, I think I absolutely need to sleep more.
Me
Like
too.
now and then.
Me too.
Yeah. Maybe you should.
I'm gonna do that now.
Right now, it's only 8:30. I mean, do you, man? You want to sleep at 8:30? Like, I ain't gonna be mad. Like, do whatever works for you.
Thanks for watching. Check us out at returnthejewels.com or on social media at returnthejewels to watch more videos. You can subscribe right there, or you can watch a random video right here. Like, share, and subscribe. Tell all your friends.